I'm Rena Ninen. Thank you for joining us. We'll get to the president's trip in London in just a moment, but we begin with breaking news out of Washington, where Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein has announced that 12 Russian intelligence officials have been indicted for interfering with the 2016 election. And what they're accused of is hacking the DNC's computer networks and the Clinton campaign.
11 of the defendants are charged with conspiring to hack into computers, steal documents, and release those documents with the intent to interfere in the election. One of those defendants and a 12th Russian military officer are charged with conspiring to infiltrate computers of organizations involved in administering elections, including state boards of election, secretaries of state, and companies that supply software used to administer elections.
CBS News Washington correspondent Paula Reed attended that news conference and joins us now. Paula, what would you say is really the most significant indictment sort of at this point produced by the special counsel of those questions that we've heard from him, of those charged? What do we know about them?
Well, the timing is incredibly significant, of course, because it's just days before the president is expected to meet with President Putin. And here, the special counsel has unsealed a document that lays out specifically how Russian intelligence officials stole and then disseminated information in an effort to impact the election. And here they name names. This is a name and shame game, and it's the who, what, when, where, and of course, why. And in this document, we learned that there were two units, one that worked to steal information, to hack into databases, hack into emails through spear phishing and other means to obtain information that they would then use to disseminate through two entities that they created, one DC Leaks, the other Guccifer 2.0. Then you see also how people were trying to pay off all of this activity, pay for this through secret identities, using cryptocurrency. It's a really sort of fascinating, detailed explanation of exactly how Russian intelligence officials tried to influence our election. We really haven't seen this level of detail yet, but as we heard, the president was briefed on this earlier this week, and even since he was briefed on these allegations, he continues to praise President Putin ahead of their meeting.
Paula, you know, Rod Rosenstein also said that there were attempts to hack local elections. Do we know exactly if they were successful at doing that?
Well, it's interesting. He said that they were able to steal the information of over 500,000 voters. They also hacked into the accounts of people who administered elections in their local communities. Now, he argues that he does not believe there was any actual impact on voter counts, but clearly they were able to get deep into the system, and it's not clear at this point what, if anything, the administration is doing to prevent this in the midterms.
And do we know, Paul, if there were any Americans involved? I know the ones indicted were Russians, but what about Americans?
Well, let's be very careful about our language here. The Deputy Attorney General says that there were no Americans who knowingly or willingly participated in this activity. Now, that does not preclude the fact that there were some people that they may have encountered or worked with who didn't know they were working with Russian intelligence officials. Significant words.
Okay, Paula Reed, thank you very much for joining us. I want to bring in Vinoo Varghese. He's a former prosecutor and criminal defense attorney. He joins us now. Vinoo, you know these are Russian intelligence officers. What do you make of the indictments and what you've heard so far?
Well, they lay out a very clear case, particularly of the 2016 elections and hacking into the DNC. Lays out a clear case that, you know, the elections at that time were dominated by Russian dressing, right? So these officers, these intelligence officers, you know, the former KGB, now GRU, they were clearly involved and they tapped in, and they, you know, while Rod Rosenstein said that it didn't, you know, they make no allegation about the impact it had, certainly there's an impact.
So how are we going to go about, you know, there were Russian indictments before, and when they came forward and we heard about these, we were kind of scratching our heads because there's no way they're going to be prosecuted, right? These folks are not going to get in. Russia's not going to hand over these guys, right? How do you go about prosecuting these folks?
Well, these indictments will be held in, the legal terms will be held in abeyance until they can bring these guys in. So they're filing the charges. What that does is institute basically international arrest warrants. These guys are, like the previous 13, are going to be prisoners in their own country. These guys are used to traveling, particularly some of the ones before. They're very wealthy. They won't be able to travel. I mean, they can go to places like Syria and Cuba, maybe.
With good relations with the Russians.
Right. But other than that, if they go through any other country, they're going to be picked up and brought here. So in essence, they're prisoners in their own country.
Well, prisoners probably living a pretty good life, though, in that country.
But
yeah. Fair enough. You know, when you look at this sort of big picture, what do you read from the Mueller probe? Is there anything that you can tell from it? We haven't really received leaks. leaks from this investigation.
Right, and that's the thing about Mueller's team. They're basically leak-proof, and I've said this about Mueller before. If all investigations were conducted as thoroughly as Mueller is conducting his investigation, you wouldn't have the epidemic of wrongful convictions in this country. I mean, Mueller's thorough, there's no leaks. That's very different than the way that other federal prosecuting offices have leaked. They leak like faucets. There's all these leaks that are going out. Mueller's team, it's leak-proof.
You're a prosecutor.
Yes.
Is there anything you can connect the dots to see what his strategy is, or where he's headed, or where he's going?
Well, I think it's heading to a certain occupant of the Oval Office.
What makes you so confident?
Well, I mean, look, he's got it was initially to see whether there was collusion. That was his initial mandate. But then that mandate, well, when it was put out, was to see whether President Trump obstructed justice. I mean, that's a separate part. The collusion here, you know, you have officers of the Russian intelligence that hacked the DNC, clearly to hurt Hillary Clinton. There's evidence of that did have an impact, even though he's saying it doesn't. The other thing about Rosenstein, I think it's important here, obviously, is the timing. President Trump is about to meet with President Putin in a couple days. He's announcing these indictments, also in response to what happened in Congress yesterday with Agent Strzok. Rosenstein said today, we don't try our cases on television or in congressional hearings. And basically Strzok and certain members of the Republican Congress tried to attack Strzok and his credibility and that of the FBI. And Rosenstein is saying, we don't do this stuff. We are here. We bring cases when we bring cases.
Vinoo Varghese, grateful you could join us. Vinoo, thank you.
Thank you.